Good morning, everyone. I will officially call the Executive and Legislative Nominations Committee public hearing for Thursday, February 15th, 2024 to order. We are awaiting a bunch, as you can tell, a bunch of our committee members who some are stuck in traffic, so bear with us for the moment. But I'll turn it over to my esteemed colleague here, Representative Yacarino, if he has anything to say.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for being here for the Commissioner of DESP and DCD and the folks in the audience. And I'm just looking to working together on a bipartisan manner this session. Ranking member. Oh my God, Mr. Concepcion.
It's been a little while.
Chair
It's all right.
Concepcion. I'm used to being in the House. We're in the House more than in
That's right.
committee meetings.
All right. Well, we have
Mr. Speaker.
three items today. The first is a House resolution for review. This is the nomination of Ronald A. Higgins of North Haven to be Commissioner of Emergency Services and Public Protection. Chief Higgins, can you please join us in the seat right there? And before you begin, if you can raise your right hand. Do you promise wear firm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Wonderful. The floor is yours if you have any opening comments.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Chief, if you can just press the button. Perfect.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Duff and Concepcion, Vice Chairman Looney and Godfrey, ranking members Yacarino and Kelly, and distinguished members of the Executive Nominations Committee. My name is Ronell Higgins, and I am honored to sit before you today as Governor Lamont's nominee to serve as Commissioner of the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection. I am passionate about collaborative leadership and believe deeply in ensuring that the citizens of Connecticut have access to the necessary public safety resources. Since November 2023, it has been my privilege to serve as acting Commissioner of DESP. In my meetings with our 6 divisions and in my visits to each of the troops' barracks throughout the state, I have said the same thing. I am here to listen, learn, and lead. There are many challenges facing our agency, some discrete, some institutional. The data reporting issue with the Connecticut State Police is at top of mind for our internal leadership, the executive branch, the legislature, and the general public. That even one trooper misreported traffic stop data is unacceptable. And as the leader of DESP, I have made it clear that anyone who has intentionally misreported data will be held accountable. I expect our troopers to act with integrity, period. I am committed to leading us through any obstacles that come our way. This means vigorous internal affairs review, enhanced training, improved policies and supervision, and a commitment to ongoing collaboration with other stakeholders. Overcoming obstacles is a part of my DNA. I would not be here before you today, but for the values and perseverance instilled in me by my parents, grandparents, and other elders in my family and community. My mother, Shirley Edwards Higgins, was born in a small segregated southern town of Farmville, North Carolina, and was part of a large contingent of Southern migrants who left the South during the Great Migration in search of opportunities in the North. As a child and teenager, my mother did the same farm work as her enslaved ancestors. She worked in the tobacco and the cotton fields for sub-minimum wages. My father, Reginald Higgins, was born in New Haven. However, his grandparents came to New Haven from the island of Nevis, sponsored by parishioners of St. Luke's Church in New Haven. He never knew his dad, he never knew his father. And his first job was working with his grandfather, picking up trash at the various dining halls at Yale University. He served his country in the United States Air Force and as a New Haven police officer for 26 years, ending his career at the rank of lieutenant. My parents raised me and my three brothers to be hardworking, honest, and honorable. And I thank God for the privilege of growing up in a loving, patriotic, and achievement-oriented household. My mother and father taught me that success is never final and that service is the price we pay for the privilege of living. Courage, compassion, respect for self and others, loyalty, responsibility, common sense, and concern for the least among us are values that they instilled in us in our upbringing. They also taught me that leadership is a high calling, and we should lead by example by taking the moral high ground on every issue and seeking the truth to solve hard problems. For the past 2.5 decades, I have served in various law enforcement and leadership roles. My career started as a corrections officer with the Department of Corrections in Bridgeport. However, I always knew I wanted to be a police officer. I was influenced by my father's career in law enforcement, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps. After rising through the ranks of the Yale University Police Force, I served as Chief of Police and Director of Public Safety, then ultimately as the first ever Associate Vice President for Public Safety at Yale. Each and every day, the public servants of DESP play a crucial role in keeping our citizenry safe. While most of the public is familiar with the Connecticut State Police, it is important to note that DESP also encompasses emergency management and homeland security, the Police Officer Standards and Training Council, the state's forensic lab, fire prevention and control, and what is commonly known as 911 or the statewide emergency telecommunications center. My eyes are wide open to the criticisms that we face, but I fully believe that with unflinching dedication to truth and transparency, we will demonstrate the honor with which we serve the people of the state of Connecticut. If approved as commissioner, it will be a privilege for me to continue to serve alongside the women and men of DESP. In summary, I thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today, and I welcome any questions you may have at this time.
Chief, thank you very much for being here. Congratulations on your nomination. Your experience is vast, and I think it's a perfect fit for such an important position that we have here in the state. Just a couple questions on my end. Can you expand a little bit on your experience over at Yale? You had several positions there, and how that prepared you to be commissioner of this important department?
Thank you for that question, Representative Concepcion. I began my career at Yale in 1997, and in 2011, I became the first African-American chief of the Yale University Police Department, the oldest campus police department in the United States. I was also one of the youngest police chiefs in the state of Connecticut. In 2015, I took on a dual role. In addition to being chief, I also served as the director of public safety, overseeing both police and security services. After stepping down as chief in 2022, I became the vice president for public safety at Yale, overseeing 4 separate and distinct verticals: police, security, public safety systems, and our Office of Emergency Management. During my time at Yale, since serving as chief, we reduced crime year over year. I am very proud of that accomplishment, but I am as proud of being able to co-author and advance a public safety strategy at Yale, which took into account the needs of a contemporary urban campus in New Haven, as well as the city of New Haven.
Thank you for that. And during your testimony, you did mention the recent issues with the profiling on the traffic stops data stuff. I know there was a report that was just recently released. Can you just expand a little bit on what that report said, what some of the mitigation strategies you have going forward to ensure that doesn't happen again?
Certainly. So the important part, the report highlighted some failures, some missed opportunities of leadership. The report also indicated that there was an extensive review done of a number of troopers. 6 troopers and 1 constable are under investigation by our Internal Affairs Division right now, and there are some others that are being looked at for some performance-related matters. The mitigation strategies that we have in place right now are as follows. First and foremost, we are beefing up our audits and inspections, ensuring that traffic stop data and any data for that matter aligns with the proper inputting. We are also ensuring that supervisors have access to systems so that they can check and do inspections on their level. We're also in the process of educating all of our troopers and supervisory staff on not just the Alvin Penn law, but on all the necessary facets of reporting. We're taking this very seriously, and under my leadership, and I said this very publicly in the past, that we're going to make certain that our practices in the field align with our policies. I've been very public in saying how important it is for the data that we provide to be meaningful and accurate.
Thank you for that answer. I will turn it over to some of my colleagues now. I might have a few additional questions as the hearing goes on, but I'll turn it over to Representative Yacarino first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Commissioners, thank you. It's a pleasure seeing you here. I think the governor made a tremendous choice.
Thank you.
I really do, not because you do live in North Haven but because I think you have the right approach, the experience, the fortitude and the understanding and it's the strength, but also you have to have some empathy. And I think it's important when you're dealing with public safety. And I really appreciate, we discussed last month about the fire service, and I appreciate, and you can see the support of our fire service here, that you have that understanding and that has to be part of your umbrella, and you have a large umbrella. So I think the governor made a very good choice, and I'm looking forward to trying to help in any way I can as a public, as a legislator, but also as a citizen of North Haven. With that, we discussed when we met, you already went over the ticketing, but how is the morale between your men and women in the state police currently?
Thank you, Representative Yacarino. So as I've shared in the past, that morale has been low within the state police, and that troopers are feeling pretty beat up. We're coming back though. Each day it's getting better. It's getting better because I am beginning to provide a vision. I want to promote a blueprint for excellence, not just for the Connecticut State Police, but for all of DESP. And we'll do that by making clear what the expectations are. We'll make it clear by ensuring that we have proper training, supervision, and updating our policies. And we're also going to focus on accountability, not the perception of accountability, but real accountability. So as we become consistent with our vision, policy, training, supervision, and accountability, I believe we'll be back.
Thank you. And the numbers, the fluid number, I think for state police was over 1,100 at one point. Are we close to that number for our troopers?
As we sit here today, we are at 931 troopers.
That's obviously we're going to have to do something for recruitment, and we have a team for that. Or
yeah, I have to share with you, Representative Yacarino, I've been very impressed with the recruitment efforts of the Connecticut State Police. As we sit here today, there are over 1,400 applicants, 1,400 applicants, people who have applied to join the Connecticut State Police. That is unprecedented in this state at this time. Having been a chief for a long time in the state of Connecticut, I am well aware of the challenges that police chiefs are facing with recruitment. But this team at the Connecticut State Police has done a yeoman's work. We are at 931 today. I believe we should probably be up between 1,250 and 1,300 troopers in order for us to get back to where we need to be.
well, that would be great. Since I've been here, I think the highest we've been is like 1,180, like not even 1,200. But with that, we had spoke about juvenile crime, and nobody really has the answer. And I think we need to work together. And I think your approach, I like your approach when we met in private. Either diversionary programs, extracurricular activity, athletics, but stop people from even getting to that point. But it's never going to work perfectly, just not gonna.
Yeah.
But with that said, for the kids that are repeat offenders, I'm sure you're going to have a plan with your local enforcement, also the judicial system, how we could potentially address that.
Yeah. During my time at Yale, I was a collaborator and I was a convener, and I fully expect to engage, as I've done in the past, with chiefs of police, throughout the state of Connecticut, the Chief State's Attorney's Office, State's Attorney's Office, and other stakeholders to help solve the problems that we're faced with.
And like I said, I'm only one person, but if enough of us try to help even a little, I think we can do something. What do you see as one of the biggest challenges besides juvenile crime in our state for either AI or foreign interference? Because you would ask me the question, what keeps me up at night? And I thought about that quite a bit. And to me, it's what's the burning of the Middle East, the burning in Europe, but that we could still have problems here.
So Connecticut sits right in between New York and Boston, two major cities in the United States. And we have to be mindful of the emerging or the evolving threat environment. So as we watch the news and look at what's happening around the world, we always have to think about how that impacts the state of Connecticut. The Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, I have found to be very professional and very attuned. The Connecticut State Police has excellent relationships, not just with the FBI, but with all of our federal partners. We're participants in many federal task force and other activities. So as we begin to look at what's happening around this country, as you share, terrorism, AI, cyber, domestic terrorism, we have a lot going on here. We have a lot to be proud of in the state of Connecticut, but as I shared in my opening remarks, success is never final. And I asked you that question, Representative Yaccarino, what keeps you up at night? Because I am concerned. I'm very concerned, and I'd like to hear the concerns of others as I move on in my career.
No, I am too, and I appreciate your answers, and your knowledge, but it's the experience, and then, like I said earlier, the empathy. I have more questions, but I'm going to pass it up. But I would say that we, as a public, really need to support our law enforcement and our fire, and we say it here often, but we don't really do it. I just did a ride along with our North Haven PD a couple weeks ago. But Marquise Martin, I don't know if you know Captain Martin.
I don't know.
He's a really good guy. Came from New Haven. Now he's in North Haven. We're lucky to have him. But their concern is people, they don't seem to get the support publicly. And most of our officers are really, really good. And unfortunately, I think we discussed it. There's some bad officers. Unfortunately, there's bad people in this world. Mm-hmm. But we really need as a public to support our law enforcement, people at the top, and also the people that work every day in the street, to give them the tools they need and to have community policing and involvement, but conversation and not bash them all the time. And I think that happens all too often. And I hope and I believe with you at the helm, that's going to be a positive. To work with people, collaborate, but communicate, listen, not just talk, but listen. And we talk too much, I think, sometime here, unfortunately, but we need to listen more. But I appreciate it. And we'll be seeing each other. And if I think of anything else to come back, but again, thank you to your team, and we all need to work together. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Chairman Duff, followed by Representative Quinn, who's online, and then Representative Theodore.
Great. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Good to see you today. Apologies for being a little bit late coming into the meeting, but it looks like you are well suited with lots of support in the room from many different groups of people, which I think is excellent to see, because that's not always the case. We, in this committee, I know we appreciate when we see folks who are being nominated and they have support of the communities, of the agencies, of folks who they worked with, and that always sends a real strong message and signal to us as well. So I'm glad that folks have participated today and come to this hearing for sure. Commissioner, when you and I spoke the other day, we spoke about kind of the collaboration and being a collaborator. And I just want to make sure that the committee hears a little bit of that, because you come from New Haven, from Yale. There's, like, as I said to you, there's not one person who has said anything that would remotely be construed as negative about you, and that's not easy to do as somebody who's been in leadership positions for such a long time, but who's also been very effective as well. Talk about kind of your role as a collaborator, because as you talked about, it's not just state police, it's Homeland Security. It's a lot of areas under that umbrella of emergency services and public protection, and also working with a number of folks locally, regionally, around the country. So you have to be a collaborator. You have to try and move things forward. How do you see yourselves and your strengths in doing that?
Thank you for that question, Senator Duff. So, um, I've always believed that there are rare moments in one's career where opportunity aligns with passion, preparation, and deep expertise. This is that time for me. This job was made for me, and I was made for this job. This job enables me to bring about all of my experience, not just serving as a leader at Yale, but all of my work on the national level. I've always felt that the role of a public safety leader isn't necessarily to publish or perish, but to bring back the best promising and emerging practices to your organization to make it the absolute best. And you can't do that in a silo. You do that by meeting other professionals and meeting your community where you are, assessing, being able to do that critical self-assessment, calling out the weaknesses and working to improve. I've been a convener and a collaborator my entire career, spending a lot of time and working with the Connecticut Police Chiefs Association, my work on the Post Council, my work on the Juvenile Justice and Child Prevention Committee for the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and the National Police Foundation. That is within my DNA, to bring people together to solve hard problems. And we only do that by putting ourselves out there and at the same time meeting others where they are, both in the profession and in our communities. We can't be afraid in this profession. And I, as the commissioner, certainly cannot shy away from taking a bath in public opinion. That will come, but we need to hear from people.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And my next question to you is, why'd you take the job? And I think that you answered that well, but if you want to expand upon that a little bit as well, it's kind of a simple question, but I think, through your passion and through your vision,
Sure.
I think people can tell why you did, but I don't know if you want to expand on that as well.
Sure. All of my experience up until now, Senator Duff, has prepared me for this role. I want to take all of my experience, all my preparation, my passion, my deep expertise, and also the thought leaders that are around me, including yourselves. And I want to create a blueprint for excellence for the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection. As good as I believe we are now, not resting on that, but recognizing that we can do better and we will do better. And we'll do that by raising the bar and closing the gap. Raising the bar in organizational professionalism across each of the 6 divisions and closing the gap between each one of those divisions and the communities and the constituencies that we serve. Focusing each one of those divisions and their leadership. This needs to be a cascading message downstream in every division, that is how we will do business. And that is why I'm looking forward to serving if appointed as or confirmed as commissioner.
I appreciate that. And there's a lot of collaboration here between this building and your department at the same time. And I'm extremely proud of the fact that Connecticut is considered one of the safest states in the nation. Some of that begins with policy here in this building and is worked out through the legislative process, talking to our commissioners and listening to those folks, some of whom are in the room today, but also executed by the work of the state police and Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection. So I think for us, it's imperative that we work together as well in a cooperative and collaborative process so that we can continue to be a place that we can say we're a safe state. Of course, there's crime. We do all we can to minimize that as much as possible. We want to have people feel safe in their neighborhoods. We want to make sure that we're providing good protection for folks and that we're doing everything that we can to make Connecticut the best place in the nation. So in that spirit of collaboration, the spirit of kind of your vision for the agency, it is important for us to make sure that we are listening, we are in communication, we are collaborating ourselves as we put forward policies that we would expect your agency to do and to make sure that they are adhering to. So I appreciate what you said. I thank you for the conversation we had the other day as well, where I got to ask you some additional questions. The only other thing I would ask, and this, I'm not looking for a direct answer at the moment, sir, is there's technology out there that is being used in law enforcement, good, bad, or indifferent. A lot of new things come up every day. Red light cameras, speed cameras, license plate readers, all those kinds of things. Some have parameters, some don't. Some need to be looked at based on whether they're statewide, local, both. I think from a policy perspective, some of that needs to have some conversations around it as to how are we going to move forward on those things? And I think your active engagement and partnership on that and your thoughts will go a long ways to how we develop the best policies here in the state of Connecticut. So thank you for your time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have next Representative Quinn, who's on Zoom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Commissioner, congratulations on your appointment. As the others have said, I've heard nothing but good things about you, and I know that the governor has picked the right person at the right time for the right job. Expanding on Ranking Member Yacarino's questions, I know you said we're at 931 troopers at the moment, and somewhere between 1,250 and 1,300 would be the ideal number. What are you currently budgeted for?
I do not have that right in front of me. I thought I did, but I do not. I can get that for you.
Okay, I'm assuming it's a number less than 1,250 though.
I believe it is. Yes.
Yeah, I think it is too. Now you indicated confidence in filling a lot of vacancies because of the number of applications that you have. Are we getting quality applications or are we just getting applications?
That's a great question. And we should be distinguishing between just numbers and or better yet, quantity versus quality. The information that I've gotten from our team at the academy and our recruitment team is that no different than any other police department or any other police chief will tell you, some applicants are not suited. But then we have a number that are. So I would say the overwhelming number are suited, but we have to be very, very clear and honest in sharing that some just are not suited. But the fact that we have 1,400 is extraordinary,
Yeah, and since the academy sits in my district, the more people that we can get in there, the better it is for our local economy and local restaurants. So you had my support anyway on additional numbers, but clearly it's a benefit to Meriden the more people we have going through there. I hope to get a chance to sit down and meet with you soon. But again, congratulations, and I wish you all the best in this new assignment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Representative Figueroa, followed by Senator Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Chief. It's a pleasure meeting you.
To meet you.
As a member of this committee, I get great comfort knowing that you have all the support around you, which to me is a good indicator that they have faith in your position, and I do want to congratulate you for that. Coming from Stamford, representing, District 148, I would like to see if you could please engage with our police department, because I don't know if you have heard, but we have a population of above 135,000 citizens, and Stamford is considered one of the safest city, within Connecticut, and also hopefully, nationwide. And I think this is something that we should be taking into consideration and looking at Stamford, as to what are we doing right for us as a citizens of this city, which is so populated, that we feel so safe. So I will give you, that task to see if you could, possible, reach out to that department, along, of course, with our administration, including the mayor. With that said, I do have a few questions to you. I would like to know as to what kind of relationship you are looking for while implementing within the department. You mentioned something about the moral being down, so I want to know if you have something specific that you will be doing, to improve this. And my next question also I do have great concerns regarding the representation within our communities. We did meet as a member of the Black Puerto Rican Caucus and Puerto Rican Latino Caucus. We met with the governor. And we are questioning, seeing that our community is really high. We need to make sure that we are hiring people. And I'm not saying, because of minorities or by gender or whatsoever, but rather those who are going to be properly representing our communities. Somehow I think that we are lacking membership, and so this is something that I do hope that you will consider on seeing what is going on. Why are we not able to attract our kids?
Mhm.
And according to the governor, he said, help me. Are we lacking communication? I mean, are we advertising? Are we telling our kids, that these are good positions that they should be applying for? And my next question will be, and thank you for taking notes. Probably I'm asking too many questions, but I would like to hear from you. How do you describe yourself? I want to know if you consider yourself to be a leader or a follower. And I rest to get your answers. Thank you.
Representative Figueroa, I'll begin with the latter. I would describe myself as someone who is skillful, trustworthy, and committed. Someone who is extremely professional and empathetic. Someone who, the way I show up is the way you see me. Someone who's willing to meet people where they are. That is how I would describe myself. I want to talk about recruitment and underrepresentation of women and minorities in policing. That is a national issue. That is a national issue. It's interesting. I teach at the University of New Haven, and when I talk to my classes, and I get out there and I recruit young people, and let's be specific here, when I'm talking to young people of color, and they're on the fence as to whether or not they want to join the police service, whether it's a local police department, the Connecticut State Police, or any other police department, and they share with me their concerns. I say to them, if not you, then who? How are we going to improve policing? We need their thought leadership. We need their creativity. We need them to bring their lens and their authenticity to each agency to help solve the problems. And there are problems. In terms of the morale within the agency, one of the first things that I did as I started to walk around the building, I visited all the troops. I spent time with them. I broke bread with some of them, and I toured the troops. But I also walked around headquarters because I wanted to get a good sense of what the belief systems were, what their thoughts were, and then determine how those beliefs and thoughts manifest themselves in the behaviors in customer service and how they're engaging with the public. And I find that it is a very strong and honorable culture, but they feel unsupported right now. And I asked them, what could I do to help support you? At the same time, I shared with them, Representative Figueroa, that I am firm, I am fair, and I'm consistent, and there will be some tough days and people will be held accountable. It will be proportionate, but I do believe in accountability. And they said to me that they appreciated the certainty that I was going to bring to the agency. So in terms of improving the morale and improving culture, I want to bring a sense of certainty. I shared earlier that I want to create and support and advance a blueprint for excellence for the entire agency, for all 6 divisions, so that each morning, each day, each evening, from the most senior leader within that division to the least senior employee, they understand what their job is and what the expectation is.
Thank you for your answers, and thank you for mentioning accountability. And I will add transparency, because I think those are key elements into any position, but especially in the positions that, you will be leading. And I want to say thank you so much also, for taking this position in these difficult times. And I do wish you good luck along with those who are supporting you here today. Thanks again. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Representative. Senator Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioner,
Morning, Senator.
and congratulations on your nomination. I'm very excited about that. I applaud the governor's choice. I think it's important to have someone with your level of dedication and skill, and also mastery, as you've demonstrated in so many areas. And I look forward to a long tenure of distinguished service from you. Question: you were the Yale University Police Department chief for 11 years, and 3 years before that you were assistant chief, and you made a rapid rise to the department. You were sergeant after you'd only been on the department for 2 years, and lieutenant a few years after that, and then assistant chief, and then chief. So in terms of that, obviously you rose rapidly through the ranks. But I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the fact that you were working in an urban area, and in a somewhat unique situation, that it was a police department within the city of New Haven, and that I think many people don't realize that the Yale University Police Department, if it stood separately as a municipal department, would actually be one of the larger police departments in the state, about 95 members within the same city that's worked by the New Haven Police Department that has 300 plus, or something like that. So if you talk a little bit about that, I know there was a lot of diplomatic skill that was necessary to negotiate the fact that you were, there were your officers, there were the city officers dealing with the city administration, sometimes the Yale administration, and the unique situations that you encountered in that role, and how have those prepared you for what you're undertaking now?
Thank you, Senator Looney. So the Yale University Police Department, in addition to being one of the oldest campus police departments in the United States, Yale University police officers wear a New Haven police badge. It's a private institution, but these officers performed a public function. They patrol the city of New Haven streets and are accountable to the New Haven Board of Police Commissioners, as well as the Civilian Review Board at Yale University. It's always been a symbiotic relationship going back to the 50s and 60s between the Yale University Police Department and New Haven Police Department. And under previous past administrations, DeStefano, Harb, and Elliker, we've always recognized that we want to be good partners, good neighbors in support of the New Haven Police Department's mission. The New Haven Police Department is and continues to be the primary law enforcement agency in the city of New Haven. But Yale University brings 20 to 25,000 plus people into the city regularly. Therefore, we wanted to be proactive in managing any policing related activities because the campus is sprawling. It spreads all across the city of New Haven. So there's various constituencies. There's the university leadership, there's students, faculty, staff, and alum, but there's also the city of New Haven, the Board of Alders, who I have tremendous respect for and who have been tremendously supportive of our work. The key with working as a Yale University police officer in the city of New Haven is we have to recognize that we will meet everyone, whether it's a well-renowned professor or a homeless person. We meet them where they are, and we treat everyone, no matter where they are in life, with dignity and respect, period. It is, so we've managed to do that. During my time, as you shared, Senator Looney, I was there for a number of years. I worked with several New Haven police chiefs, nine New Haven police chiefs during my career. So I had to develop and manage relationships with each and every one of them. We had to find common ground. We also had to figure out where our work overlapped and leverage economies of scale, keeping in mind that, policing is expensive. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot working in New Haven as the Yale University police chief. We partnered with federal, state, and local law enforcement a lot. It's not well known. We didn't talk a lot about it, but Yale was it's a global institution, and we have a lot of people and a lot of heads of state that visit Yale on a regular basis. Yale is also an institution where there's a lot of research going on, cutting edge research that's going on. So it is a complex job. I learned a lot. I had to lean in and learn, and I'm better off as a result of it. And I'm hoping to bring that skill set and that same attitude. I will bring that skill set and that same attitude to my role as commissioner if appointed.
I think that's going to be an important thing for you to that you both have and also transmit to others in the state system now that you're here, because I know that you mentioned that they're often very high profile, distinguished people, but controversial people who come to speak at Yale, and there may be a heightened security risk regarding some of them, and that was obviously in your hands and your control when you were there, and managing large crowd situations, large demonstrations, all of that. You mentioned in your resume the 2019 Yale Harvard football game, which was, I was at that game, and there was the halftime protest that lengthened halftime, but ultimately resolved itself when the demonstrators left, and no violent incident broke out. I remember because I was in the stands, I had the cell phone number of the New Haven police chief. And called him at the time and said, are you aware of what's going on here? He said, yeah, we are. And he said, it's in the hands of the Yale police, and we're standing back, and we think they can handle it. And you certainly did. And but that was certainly a time where you had 60 or 70,000 people in the stands, demonstrators on the field, and something that sort of could have gone one way or another in terms of what the outcome would have been. And it was something that resolved I think in a way that everybody was proud of. One thing I'd like to ask you about in more detail is about your theory on police recruiting and preparation and training. It seems to me that the job of a police officer is one that requires an extraordinary amount of discretion, as obviously it's not rote behavior. Every time an officer comes to a scene, he or she often has a range of things that he or she could do in response. For instance, if you have a case where you get a call about kids breaking windows in an abandoned factory, and the officer who comes can take a range. You can just shoo the kids away and tell them not to do it again. You can take them down to the station, have their parents come and pick them up, or you can charge them with property damage, vandalism, and trespass, and send them into the juvenile system. So there's a whole range of things. So the officers have broad discretion, just as prosecutors do at the next step in either pursuing a case or not. But it also seems to me in some ways that some of the entry-level requirements for officers are actually too low based on what we expect of them in terms of education and preparation. Obviously, we require probation officers to have college degrees. We require parole officers to have that. But the officer on the street encountering every situation, and most departments only require a high school diploma, and they go through the academy. I know there are many police officers who go to college part-time, and earn degrees as they have worked their way through their police careers. But your thought on having a higher entry-level education requirements for officers, given the complexity, the nuances, the diversity of the situations they encounter, or any thoughts you may have on how we can better improve the professionalism of police, because we can't rely on the police academy to do everything. I know there's a situation, officers go through the training program, but if somebody has lived a life for 25 years or more in private life and developed certain attitudes, those attitudes aren't necessarily going to be erased or improved if they're negative ones just by going through a police academy for a few months. Just your thoughts on that whole process.
Certainly, Senator, and education in policing has been talked about a lot over the years, and I for one, if a police officer is applying and has a bachelor's degree or a graduate degree, that's a plus. However, I do not believe that it is absolutely necessary for a police officer to have a college degree. What I do believe very strongly is that for us to continue to deal or to manage the evolving nature of our work is we need to strengthen our ongoing training and development throughout the course of a career of a police officer. We need to do that internally, but also we should be incentivizing, police officers returning to school. I, for one, took full advantage of the Yale tuition reimbursement program, and I got my bachelor's and my master's degree through that program. The university incentivized all of its employees, not its police department. So I do believe the investment in existing employees works. I also believe that we need to be in the schools recruiting. There are some right now at universities around this state, both private and public, who are on the fence as to whether or not they want to engage in policing. And they're not all criminal justice majors. Right. Some of them are accounting majors and English majors, and we want them. I think we need to do better at enabling them to see themselves in that work. There are some good models out there nationally, but I do not believe firmly that it should be a requirement. I believe that there needs to be a multi-pronged approach for us to continue to raise the level and the caliber of employees so that they can be good police officers.
I know that there is a study going on now that at the University of New Haven for a few years, Dr. John DiCarlo, who I'm sure you know, is talking about a program that would incorporate police training into the undergraduate degree program for criminal justice majors, so that students would graduate both with their degree, but also be eligible for police certification. And then they might need just limited additional training in the department that hires them afterwards, and maybe in terms of weapons use or cars in pursuit or the particular rules of that department. But that might limit the amount of time to a few weeks instead of 6 months, and there would be a great savings to the department in terms of training, and the city in terms of training, and also getting a trained college-educated officer from the start. And I know that Senator Gaston is looking into that also in terms of the discussions with the Public Safety Committee, talking to the Connecticut State University system about that as well. And it seems to me that would be a good way of developing a pipeline of enhanced professionalism and credentialing for people to be able to come into the field with some advanced preparation and certification, so that they would be able to be less expensive to train for the department, because most of that training would already have happened while they were in college. I know that's somewhat controversial, because always there's a turf battle with Post. I think they're not crazy about that proposal, because it would take a lot of the training out of their hands and put it in the hands of the universities in some cases. But your view overall in terms of working with colleges to create a direct college to police department pipeline.
Yeah, I believe that we have to, as I shared earlier, we need to think creatively and work collaboratively. I do believe that there's space to create pilot programs for programs like what you're describing. And I believe that we should study these pilot programs. So I think that for us to continue to maintain levels in Connecticut, the caliber of officer, as well as continue to create pathways into policing, we have to be willing to try something different. We can't be afraid to do hard things.
Right. Do you have a sense with the state police about are there many state police officers or troopers kind of working their way through college also and getting degrees while they serve?
It's funny you say that. Just last week, my team was at the University of New Haven, because we're looking to establish a partnership with the University of New Haven, but I want to focus on developing partnerships with our state universities as well. Central Connecticut State University is one of them. I don't have the number of troopers that are working their way through college right now, But in talking to some of the troopers and them starting to learn more about my background, know that I want to see them to go to college, get through college, then get back on the road and assume leadership positions within the agency.
Good. Yeah. Well, thank you, Commissioners. Again, I'm very excited about the prospect of your service, and I think it will be of great benefit to the state for years to come. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from Farah, followed by Representative Gresco, who's online.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great to meet you, Commissioner. I'm way over here. I'm not testifying today, but just the way this room is designed, a little bit unusual. But I wish you well, great success in your new position. Commissioner, I would imagine you agree probably strongly that of all of our responsibilities, and we as lawmakers have a lot of responsibilities. We're all on different committees. You have, in your new role, many responsibilities, but public safety, I think we all agree, is paramount in ensuring that the public is safe in the many definitions of that term. I don't know how if you drove up today from North Haven in an unmarked car, but our highways are not safe. Speeding is an epidemic. And every time we get in our vehicles and drive on our highways, and that's not exclusive to our highway system, but because that's an area that you have responsibility over, that it is unsafe. And we take our lives in our hands when we enter the highway system in this state in many regards, because of those who believe that frankly, that the chances of them being stopped is slim. It's a risk-reward situation, and they're willing to risk. And oftentimes, and your troopers know this better than I do, and any of us sitting here, often it's somebody else who pays the price for it. When I left this building yesterday, a car went from the left lane, and this isn't new. Everybody in this room experiences it, has seen it, from the left lane to the right lane, back to the left lane, all in a matter of a quarter of a mile. And not slowly, by the way, doing that. And so, and I frankly don't believe that we should endanger our troopers to stop cars on the side of the road. It is a very dangerous situation. You know that, again, better than I. But there has to be a solution. I've heard you express the term blueprint for excellence many times here in my few minutes here. We need a blueprint for excellence in making our highway system safe. I'm sure you have a family. I'm sure that this is something you've seen and probably frustrates you as much as it frustrates me and others. But we can't seem to get a handle on it. And I know there's resistance to cameras on our highway. I wish that with your creative spirit that we could figure out how to do this where we don't endanger troopers, but we have a presence on our highways where these knuckleheads are not able to continue to endanger all of us who happen to drive safely and are just trying to get from here to home or wherever it might be.
Thank you, sir. And I want you to know that I've been thinking very deeply since day one of assuming the role as acting commissioner. We are focused on aggressive driving, impaired driving, and we are right now, as we speak, involved in efforts to move our traffic safety, our traffic services unit that is assigned to headquarters out in the troops to do more enforcement and increase our presence on the highways. Our Connecticut State Police right now are engaged in an initiative on the I-95 on the eastern seaboard along I-95 that goes from Florida to Maine. the Drive to Save Lives initiative. We are very, very, very much involved in that, and we're going to be stepping up our enforcement. We have already, and I have made this clear when I visited all the troops, we have already increased our presence, but we need to do more. We need to do better because each, as you shared, each one of us has a family and each one of us travels these highways. I asked Representative Yacarino what keeps him up at night. Well, this is one of the things that keeps me up at night because I see exactly what you're seeing and I have experienced exactly what you've experienced. So as commissioner, I've been clear to the colonel and the leadership team that I want to see increased presence and I want to see increased contact. There are progressive levels of enforcement. This isn't all about writing a ticket, but people need to know that we're out there to keep them safe. I'll share with you, just a couple of months ago, there was a street takeover in the city of North Haven. And I saw it firsthand because my daughter called me and she couldn't leave work because of all the activity in front of Olive Garden. So I had to go there in my vehicle and extract her from that street takeover. So I saw exactly what others have seen. And it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. We have people coming in cars from out of state to participate in this sort of behavior in our state. It's unacceptable, and we're not going to tolerate it.
I would just say, Commissioner, that if it's on our end in terms of resources, please ask. You'll have support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Representative
Thank you, Mr.
Gresco.
Chairman.
Representative Gresco, who is in Zoom land.
I am, and thank you, and I'll be brief. Commissioner Higgins, thank you for your years of service to the state of Connecticut. And as a member of a group that has chosen a career in public service, legislator, lawmaker, politician, if you will, I can understand the concept of being judged wholly as a result of some less than stellar news headlines. So I understand the challenge that you're facing, but how do you handle some of the future members under your leadership that might be feeling, look, I've been here for years, this sounds great, but nothing will change? How do you try to tap into the motivation that we all hope is still there in those under your leadership?
That is a great question. And that is the challenge of the day for a leader. I think being consistent is extremely important. Being consistent. By willing to hear even those naysayers, that is important because at the end of the day, you want them to even feel like they were heard. The commonality here is that everyone signed up. There's a code of conduct and they swore an oath. So it is my expectation that everyone shows up each and every day to do good, to keep our highways safe, to keep our communities safe, to be the best investigators. And I'm not, my eyes are wide open. I'm not going to go all Pollyanna. I know that there's some people that I may not be able to reach, but here's what I have found. I have found that the overwhelming majority of the women and men within the agency are looking for leadership and are thankful that I'm providing them with some direction. So it's not an easy job, but as a student of leadership and as a leader in law enforcement in this state who's been working at it for years, I have a great network of friends and supporters and other chiefs who have experienced what I am experiencing. So I think we're going to be okay. And I want them to know. I want the members of the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, every single one of the divisions, I want them to know that I am here to support and that we will create and advance a blueprint for excellence. Because as good as we are, success is never final.
Thank you, Commissioner, and congratulations. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Yacarino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the second time, Commissioner. I did forget our fire services here, but our recruitment is down big time for our career firefighters. and our volunteers. And we've worked very hard in this building to try to help all of our firefighters, either between the cancer bill and other, or a stipend for our volunteers. I know you have a lot on your plate, and mostly it's the police, but anything that you can work with, either administrative, the fire services to help them, bring up the numbers.
Absolutely, Representative Yacarino, and I do have a lot on my plate, and fire service is on my plate. So in meeting with Jeff Morissette and the leaders, the appointed leaders of the fire service in the state of Connecticut, I did not know until I began as the acting commissioner that recruitment for both career and volunteer firefighters is down in the state of Connecticut. So both of our training centers right now, Post as well as the Fire Training Center, those are very important for us right now. So I think this is an opportunity for, again, us to think creatively and work collaboratively in how we can recruit members of this state in the tri-state area into careers in public safety. There are a number of different things that the police service has done very well in terms of developing plans for recruitment, strategies for recruitment, but there's also some things that we can learn from the fire service. So that cross-pollination of police and fire right now is so important. And I intend to be the convener and bring them both together so that we can both support. We need to both support, they need to support both in recruitment and the improvement of the facilities. There's been tremendous investments in facilities over the many, many years. Our police academy in Meriden and a fire academy as well up near the airport. But in order for us to recruit and maintain standards of excellence, I believe it's important that we invest in those facilities so that we can be the best.
I appreciate that. And our North Haven's fire chief is here currently. I don't know if you know Chief Genovsky, Paul Genovsky, maybe you guys could hook up later, but I appreciate that. And it's vitally important. And our volunteers, I think about 70% of our firefighters are volunteers. And we tried to bring the stipend up. I think I'd like to bring it up even in greater numbers, but Senator Looney mentioned about college, but I did the ride along, like I said, with Officer Martin. And he said one of the stumbling blocks or barriers are men and women out of high school that want to join PDs. Some PDs want college, and he didn't go to college till later, took courses afterwards. And he's one of the best police officers in North Haven. He came from New Haven. He does a great job. And he told me that unfortunately there are men and women that want to become police officers, but they don't have a college degree, and it's just a little harder for them. And a good friend of mine just wrote a book. I'm Not Famous. Former Captain Mark Genovese. He was and in the Marines, he was a embassy ambassador, an embassy guard, Tel Aviv and Poland. It took Mark forever because he went right to the Marine Corps. And he finally eventually became a captain. So I think I like your approach. If somebody's qualified and you have a good system, work through it. And I was stationed in a Navy base in Groton. I would look at our men and women in the military, try to get a connection. I'm sure you probably don't know that, but get a connection and a relationship if possible. Because I don't think there should be a barrier. And especially for people of color, I think it's going to be even harder, to be perfectly honest. And I don't know if you agree or not, but that's all I have to say. And I apologize for the second go around, but I wanted to speak about the fire service and address the men and women that should have the opportunity to become officers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So,
Mr. Chair.
I have found in my time that not every high school student wants to attend college per se. So we have trade schools. We have schools where someone can go, and when they graduate, whether it be Eli Whitney or one of the trade schools, they can become an electrician, or they're on the pathway to become an electrician or a carpenter or a plumber. As such, I believe it's time that we look at some existing models, not just in the state, but nationally, where there are public safety high schools, where we are, because there's some young people out there right now today that know they want to go into either policing, fire, or medical service. I think we need to begin to establish, and we can get on the map here in Connecticut. We need to start to establish programs that we're getting young people through high school, to the academy, and into a public safety career. That is my vision.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee members? Seeing none, we do have one last question that we ask every nominee. Is there anything in your past you believe might prove embarrassing to this committee, to the governor, or to the state of Connecticut?
No.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Congratulations again. Thank you for being with us today and for your thoughtful answers for so many of our questions.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just want to say thank you for making this the safest room in the entire state of Connecticut today. Whether it's police, fire, we're set. Sorry, Dan O'Keefe. I think they're all gonna leave when you're up, but but thank you. Thank you for.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, moving on. Our second agenda item today is another House resolution for review, which is the confirmation of Daniel H. O'Keefe of New Canaan to be Commissioner of Economic and Community Development.
So first, I would just like to thank Commissioner Higgins. It's incredibly humbling to be here at all, but to share the stage with him is particularly humbling. That's fine. I'll wait. Hope it wasn't something I said.
All right, I think we can get started. Commissioner, before you begin, if you can raise your right hand. Do you promise, swear, and affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Wonderful. The floor is yours for any opening comments you might have.
Thank you. I was just saying, I did want to start just by thanking Commissioner Higgins. Very humble to be here at all, but to share this stage with him is particularly humbling. So I want to thank him for his leadership. Chairman Duff and Concepcion, Vice Chairman Looney and Godfrey, ranking members Kelly and Yacarino, and distinguished members of the Executive Nominations Committee. I am humbled and honored to stand before you. I know you've seen my written testimony, so rather than repeat that here, I thought I would spend some time with more of a personal introduction and a little insight into my background, my thinking, and my strategy. I'll frame my path to you today as the 3 strokes of luck. First stroke of luck. My mother was a public school teacher and always taught us to question, to listen, to always be learning, to remember our empathy, and most of all, to always believe. Believe that with an incredible amount of hard work, believe that the future can be brighter than the present. Second stroke of luck. I came of age, meaning the start of my career at the dawn of the commercial internet. I taught myself how to code in the early 90s and went on to a 25-year career investing in technology companies. And if you think about the nature of that work, I spent a career believing that with an incredible amount of hard work, that the future for these entrepreneurs could be brighter than the present. Third stroke of luck. A little over a year ago, I met Governor Lamont, and we started to talk about ways I might engage. And as part of that work, I analyzed the economic trajectory of the state of Connecticut, much like I might analyze a company. And what I saw was pretty interesting. What I saw was after a period of decline prior to the pandemic, I now see an expanding economy, growing the 7th fastest in the country. That is the fastest relative growth we've seen in almost 20 years. What I see are tens of thousands of new residents coming into the state at a moment when our neighboring states are losing people. What I see is a fiscal house in order with consistent surpluses, our debts paid down, and upgrades on our credit. And that is why I am particularly excited to be considered for this particular leadership position at this particular moment. Because now, with the mistakes of our past addressed, largely, I acknowledge there's still more work to do here. We can now invest more meaningfully in our future. And the work of the DECD does exactly that, strategic and targeted investment in our cities and in our communities and support for our expanding economy and its participants. Capital projects and brownfield remediation, investing in the vibrancy of our communities. Support for the arts, tourism, and historic preservation, which protects and extends our cultural institutions. Company retention and attraction in partnership with Advanced CT, investing in the companies of our future with Connecticut Innovations. Our work not only aligns with these improving economic trends, but the work also reflects an intentionality that aligns deeply with my values. Let me explain. For the last 10 years, I've served on the board of the Opportunity Network, an education-focused nonprofit, most recently serving as its chairman. OpNet partners with high potential but low-income students from structurally marginalized communities, reaching over 40,000 students a year. I give you this background to make it clear that as I say this, I'm not pandering to this moment. I decided long ago to leverage whatever privileges I've been afforded, whatever voice I have to do my part to address structural inequity. This is what I do. And that is what the DECD does. Our programs prioritize distressed municipalities and minority and woman-owned businesses. Fully 60% of our small business support has gone to these communities in need. I am so proud of this team and this work and can commit to you that it will continue during my watch, because that is what is right, that is what is just, and that is why I am here. Let me close by saying that as I travel the state, I encounter a fair amount of skepticism, and I understand why. Many of us live through what is now referred to as the lost decade, the 10 years post the global financial crisis, but I reject it. I reject the skepticism of our past because what I see is cause for optimism about our future. What I see are reasons to believe. I believe that with an incredible amount of hard work from all of us, that the future is bright. We can do this together, and I cannot wait to get up every single day and to get after it and to make it here. With that, I will close. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for your testimony and your willingness to take the position, and congratulations on that. As you know, we've had our conversations a couple times. Part of my district is representing here downtown Hartford, and downtown at least Hartford, very similar to other large municipalities post-COVID. Our biggest issue that we're facing is the office vacancy situation that is it's fairly dire. So I guess my question is DECD looking at some mitigation strategies when it comes to filling some of these office vacancies that are in our downtowns?
We are, and I'll mention a couple of different strategies that I think apply. The first is company attraction. So how do you fill office vacancy rates? You bring companies in to fill up the space. And that is a big part of our work, again, in cooperation with Advanced CT. But I'd also talk about, what we're going to do with this physical plant over time. The vacancy rates, particularly in Hartford, that we're seeing right now is partially because a lot of the physical plant was built for a singular use case, which is knowledge work, office workers.